Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island, and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island, and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We will now have a moment of silent reflection, followed by the playing of our national anthem. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. We can start with an adoption of the agenda for the June 24th, 2025 regular council meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo. All in favor? And that carries. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? There being none. An adoption of the minutes of the closed and regular meetings of council held June 10th, 2025 be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Carrick, support by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo. All in favor? And that carries. Just a few mayor's comments for this evening. Before we begin the agenda tonight, I want to take a moment to acknowledge a profound loss to our community. This past week, we lost a valued member of Team LaSalle, Jackson Moore. Jackson was a team leader in our Culture and Recreation Department and was known by his colleagues for his warmth, kindness, and unwavering positivity. He made a lasting impact on those he worked with and will be deeply missed. On behalf of the town of LaSalle, we extend our heartfelt condolences to the Moore family and to all of Jackson's friends and coworkers. In other updates this evening, please note that tomorrow all town of LaSalle services, including Town Hall, the Vollmer Center, the Event Center, and the Public Works buildings will be closed for a full day of town-wide staff training. However, the LaSalle Civic Center will remain open for its regular programming. Additionally, the Vollmer Center will also be closed to the public on Thursday, June 26th. We thank everyone for their understanding as we invest in continued training and improvement for our staff and our services. Looking ahead to the weekend, I'm pleased to share that we'll be celebrating the first event at the Loop at LaSalle Landing this Saturday, June 28th, starting at 4 p.m. It's the Rotary Circle grand opening, and we invite everyone to come out for the exciting family-friendly event. The official ribbon cutting will take place at 4:30 p.m., followed by a chance to enjoy the new water jets, interactive spaces, and fun activities for all ages. And if that's not enough, be sure to stick around for the LaSalle Interact Club's movie night inside the Event Center starting at 6 p.m. There will be games and entertainment, and the movie Shrek will begin at dusk. Admission is just $2 for anyone over the age of 8, and all details can be found on the Rotary Club's website. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here tonight. We don't have any public meetings or hearings, so we'll go into our presentations and delegations. And the first one is the King Charles III Coronation Medal that will be presented this evening to Maureen Taylor. So the King Charles III Coronation Medal, the national award, is presented to Canadians who have made significant contributions to Canadian society. The medal is presented in the name of His Majesty King Charles III and administered by the Office of the Secretary to the Governor-General at Rideau Hall. On behalf of Council, we'd like to congratulate Maureen Taylor for receiving this honor. Maureen was born in Windsor, Ontario, a city rich with diversity, resilience, and a strong sense of community. She's always believed in the quiet power of giving back, and throughout her life, she's done so not for recognition, but because it's simply who she is. Her journey with Girl Guides of Canada began in 1987 at Drouillard Place in Windsor. What started as a weekly gathering of girls learning and growing together became the foundation of her life's path. In 1996, when she moved to LaSalle, she joined Unit 46. They met at the Girl Guides house on Malden Road, the old Sandwich West Public School, and lovingly transformed into a guiding hub complete with an office and store which no longer stands. Through guiding, Maureen found more than purpose, she found lifelong friendship. One of the most treasured relationships in her life with her best friend, Kathy, began thanks to their shared time in guiding. Over the years, she's worn many hats: unit leader, trainer, event organizer, and eventually district commissioner. Each role allowed her to support girls and fellow leaders alike, fostering confidence, independence, and community spirit. To this day, she remains actively involved with Unit 46, working side by side with her daughter, Ashley, who has begun stepping into leadership herself. Seeing her daughter take on this role has been one of her proudest moments. It's proof that guiding is a legacy that continues to grow and inspire. Beyond guiding, volunteerism has been the heartbeat of her life. She's dedicated countless hours to organize community cleanups, helping with food drives, and supporting events like Earth Day celebrations and local fundraisers. Their unit has worked quietly behind the scenes as well to help families in need, collecting hats, scarves, and blankets for shelters, and donating care kits to the Women's Centers or the Humane Society. One of her long-term volunteer roles was a children's liturgy teacher at St. Paul's Church. For years, she guided young children through their early spiritual education, helping them understand value like kindness, compassion, and faith through stories and simple lessons. Watching their eyes light up with understanding was a joy that stayed with her long after each Sunday service. At Zehrs, where she's worked for over 25 years, Maureen also found ways to contribute beyond her job. She represented the store during a local disaster, delivering food and water to homes impacted by a devastating tornado. It was a moment that showed the strength of our community, and she was proud to stand in support, even if it's just for a day. One of the most defining moments in Maureen's life was her husband suffered a cardiac arrest at home. She performed CPR skills she had learned through Girl Guides and saved his life. For this, she was honored with a Life-Saving Hero Award, a recognition that left her both humbled and deeply grateful. It reminded her that the skills we share and teach can ripple out in unexpected and life-altering ways. In her quiet time, she enjoys working on guiding crafts, counting beads, cutting fabric, and preparing for the next big adventure. Right now, she's especially excited about their first ever Swapalooza event, and I probably said that wrong, where over 100 girls from across Windsor, Essex will come together to trade handmade trinkets, laugh, learn, and create memories. Volunteering has never been about bringing attention to herself. It's about putting the spotlight on those who are in need so others can see what she sees, and she believes deeply in doing good wherever possible. Whether it's mentoring a young leader, helping a neighbor, or organizing an event, Maureen gives her time because she cares and because she knows that every small act of kindness adds up to something bigger. Maureen hopes that Girl Guides continues to shape young hearts and minds for generations to come. And when you see a unit out and about, maybe selling cookies or cleaning a park, she hopes you'll take a moment to stop, say hello, and see the light of future leaders in their eyes. Once again, on behalf of Council, I would like to congratulate Maureen on this well-deserved honor and present her with a certificate from the town of LaSalle. Thank you for your dedication and hard work. Congratulations, Maureen. You can stay for the whole thing if you want to. Okay, moving on in the agenda. Number 2 is petition for resurfacing of Senator Street. So we have Christopher Quick, if you want to come forward. Go ahead. Just to get you to turn on the mic, sorry. I know, I apologize. I should have told you to turn on the mic first.
Okay, is that better? All right, good evening. My name is Christopher Quick, and I'm representing the residents of Senator and Juanita Streets in LaSalle. I've been a resident in the town of LaSalle for 25 years, formerly living on Bayshard Beach and now Senator Street, going on 3 years. Both of my kids also reside in LaSalle with their families. I want to thank you this evening, Mayor Meloche, and the members of the LaSalle Town Council for fast-tracking our being here tonight with the concerns brought forth, especially the safety and welfare issues highlighted via petition and the added formal complaint. We appreciate your sensitivity, sense of urgency, and support on this matter. Our top-level request is for the town of LaSalle, through the mayor and council, is to fast-track the required repairs and resurfacing of our streets that have not been attended to since the mid-90s. That's 30 years. The key factors behind this immediate and urgent demand, first and foremost, safety. There are uneven surfaces that cause significant trip hazards on our street. The age demographics on our street with the residents are 75% are between 50 and 70 years old, 15% are 70 to 90, and 10% are below 50. Post submission of the petition, my wife was walking the dogs and then pulled her hard in sight of a squirrel, causing her to fall on her knees due to the terrible and evil surfaces that created trip hazards in front of our driveway. The end of our street is so sunk and lower than our entrance to the drive that I was forced to temporarily repair it with screenings and rent a tamper to compact it. This shouldn't be the case. If the road had been in proper condition, she wouldn't have fallen. My neighbor is elderly. She walks her dogs regularly. She has fallen at her house 4 or 5 times in this past year and a half, with one time breaking her arm. We always worry about her tripping on the street. There is also an elderly lady living at the end of Juanita. She walks with a cane. Last summer, we witnessed her falling from across the canal. Fortunately, some kind Town of LaSalle employees were there to assist her to her feet and see that she was okay. Disabled people also live on our street and visit. As an example, my son has cerebral palsy, and we have to make sure he parks in the drive to avoid falling on the street when we have multiple vehicles present. Just last night, we moved cars around after he arrived later in order to accommodate this potential risk. Therefore, our concerns are real, and it's a matter of time until someone gets injured badly. Safety is the utmost concern of our residents or visitors and should be of this council. Additional issues related to safety. When it rains, we experience standing water in many large potholes or crevices in and along our entire road. It rained so hard this past week, the entire end of our road was under water by 4 to 6 inches due to its sunken condition over time with heavy loads and neglect over time. The standing water takes days to clear up, and as you know, LaSalle is notorious for mosquitoes, and these conditions create perfect breeding zones. We also know there are heightened concerns and increasing risks these days with mosquito-borne illnesses. This increases risk to our residents. On top of this, 60 to 70% of our residents have dogs. Last year, we witnessed 3 geese with bird flu symptoms being taken away. One died, the others were stumbling over and walking in circles. The concern here is that waterfowl defecate on the roads and contaminate the standing water. God forbid a dog drinks out of these contaminated puddles, or worse yet, a visiting grandchild gets into them and becomes infected. Children, not just dogs, could be ill or even worse. Again, Juanita is the same conditions. I have taken pictures of the conditions to our entire street and forwarded them to Jonathan Osborne via email. Our road has constant traffic, especially with the addition of servicing and provisioning the Fighting Island. There are abundance of heavy equipment that include LaSalle trucks, garbage and recycle trucks, snowplows, construction, commercial trucks, school buses during school months. The list goes on. Just as an example, last night there was a special event with a riverboat cruise, and we had 50 to 60 cars going up and down our street. The fact is, over time, the wear and tear causing damage to this untended and neglected road. It's unfortunate that many of our residents now have damaged entrances to their driveways. In fact, my neighbor that's here tonight, he's got a new driveway. It's that of 7 years old, and it's all crushed at the front end, and it's, there's a lot of expense that goes into our driveways. Again, I've sent pictures highlighting the damage to the residents' drives, both older and new. This is neither fair nor acceptable to our residents. On a softer note, many of us have classic or new sports car, and this road is very hard on vehicles. Then the fact that standing water can be there for days at a time limits the amount of time for use. Again, not really fair or acceptable. Lastly, we all feel we pay high taxes. This street has been neglected. There have been many asks over the year, and they have just been brushed off. There's an abundance of infrastructure projects underway or just finished. Our town has spent a great deal of money funded by taxpayers on what were defined as priorities. What really frustrated our residents of recent was the road that was closely adjacent to the firehouse by our street was retopped. The road was in great condition compared to ours and that of Juanita. We estimate a rough cost of $40,000 to $60,000 per street. We know that there is an emergency fund. We know that when there is emergency funding required or safety mission critical, immediate funding immediate funding and execution can occur. We strongly encourage the Town of LaSalle's Mayor Meloche, along with our councillors, find and approve the funding to address this immediately. Again, we thank you for your time, attention, consideration of this top priority. Thank you. So we have many of our residents here that are very concerned, and I just happen to be retired, semi-retired, I say, that I could take on this important venture, and and I'm pretty passionate about it, along with all of my neighbors. So we really hope to get something done immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us here this evening and presenting. I'm going to turn it over to council. Because it's a petition, it kind of is a different way that we would normally use each agenda item. We would vote on something that's been presented in a motion, and we don't have that here. So this is going to be
a motion.
I know you could, but it's not going to work that way.
I know.
But so I'm going to go through council and allow them to kind of have thoughts and comments, and then decide how we can move forward with this.
Thank
okay?
you very much.
So members of council, Councillor Burns.
Hello. I know the area well. I lived in that area. So, to administration, can you give us some idea of what you feel the road is in today and where the funding, if there's any funding in our road budget to go towards this? Jonathan, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Through you, Madam Mayor, the road is in bad condition. There's no argument there. It's one of many roads that we have that are in, we call very poor condition on our rating scale. So it is due for a mill and pave, so it would come from our mill and pave project, our mill and pave line item in the budget. This year's money has already been spent. Next year's money has been committed, if council recalls, for 2026. But we could look into further options if requested by council on how it might be funded, but it would come from the mill and pave project is where it would likely be funded from.
Thank you.
Councillor Riccio-Spignolo.
Thank you, through you. I'm aware that we do have many roads in the town of LaSalle that do need to be upgraded and fixed. Can you tell me what the cost would be, estimate cost of what this cost would be to fix these roads?
I could ballpark it, but I'm a little hesitant too. I'd rather look at it a little more closely with the engineering team and come up with a better estimate for council. So whatever I tell you tonight would be incorrect, but it's at least six figures, I'll say that.
Sorry, through you, I understand the concerns. We don't want anybody to get injured, fall, break.
We've already had that.
Yeah, and we definitely don't want that again. It's just, it's tough because there's other areas in the community as well that have come forward or have sent emails to us as well to have those roads fixed as well. But I do totally understand your concerns. Health and safety is top most priority to all of us. It's just on where to find the funds.
Thank you.
So,
I've driven around a lot of roads in LaSalle over my 25 years, and I got to tell you, there's not many roads in this condition. It's probably one of the worst in LaSalle, I would say.
Thank you. I'm going to just try to leave the communication between council members and administration at this time if we could. And Councillor Carrick, did you want to, or Councillor Spagnola, do you have anything else to add? You sure? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask the question to administration, but I know, where do you see this road being as one of the top priorities compared to the other roads that we've had concerns on?
Well, like I said before, it is identified in our roads, list and rating of roads as a very poor among many other roads. So I don't think there's any reason not to pave it in the near future. But to pave it immediately, we don't have anything currently budgeted for.
Councillor Carrick?
Yeah, so further to that, we get it. And we go through the process, and there's a process, but I'm suggesting that this budget session, if you referred to this budget, and I think someone will probably back me up with that, but it would be important if you guys would come to the budget session and also maybe comment on the budget itself too overall, would be very helpful too. So definitely, I'm suggesting it would be nice to see you show up.
Sure.
At budget time. That would be very, very helpful in helping us organize what pecking order, hopefully that it comes in. So we do have a system in place, so at that point, I will like to see it moved on, and I'll leave it up to another fellow councillor to comment.
Thank you. Do you have a question? Okay, 1 second. You have a motion?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second. So I just have a couple quick questions. So do we currently have this road ranked in the next few years to be redone? Is it in the near future, or is it not currently on the radar? I know we've identified it, but I also know we have a plan.
It's on the radar. I would say it's not outlined for a specific year other than within 5 years. But as we go through the mill and pave, the list of roads, oftentimes we try to group roads in close proximity to each other. That helps cost savings. So if there's 4 or 5 low-graded roads in one area of town, we'll try to bunch some together that fit together. So if we were going to go to Senator Street, we'd likely, it would be the time to also pave Juanita and Manhattan as well. But with those streets, we have to keep in mind, like, I know the delegate mentioned the drainage issues. We know there's drainage issues on those roads. They were never built to today's municipal standards. They're very old roads that were built to the standard of the day. A mill and pave, a resurface would help with potentially some of the standing water in the road, but it's not going to be a wholesale change on a road reconstruction or anything to that effect. That's a different level of project. But just to go back to your question, sorry, I wandered a little there, but it's in our probably 0 to 5 year term. So we select projects from that list as we go into the budget process to get an idea of what we're going to do for the next couple of years. So this could be one of them that gets added into the list for the next couple of years. But just keeping in mind that council has committed to 2025 and 2026 for Broderick and Disputed from our current mill and pave money. So that's what's committed to date by council.
Okay, thank you. And so you mentioned a little bit about the flooding mitigation, this isn't going to change anything. The DMAF work that we're doing, will this have any impact on that area?
That's a very good question. It may. So as you know, we're still in the middle of our DMAF project. And through the environmental assessment, it did like it didn't know what the drainage situation or the storm sewer situation was on Senator and Juanita and Manhattan. And it's very old storm sewers that outlet directly into the river. So there's the potential solution that is identified in the environmental assessment is to, put new storm sewers in a pump station and take it off of a gravity system and put it onto a pump station system. The difficulty with Senator Juanita is the elevation of the road sits so low that during the high water events, a pump station is useless. The water overtops the road in certain areas, and a pump station wouldn't help anyway because the water's just coming in from the river. So to go down that process, what's required are improvements on private property to raise grades where there's low areas. And we're not in a position to go onto private property to do that thing. So as we're working through the DMAF project, through stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, we're identifying the solutions that we can put into place. And we were going to circle back to Juanita and Senator once we knew the magnitude of costs we were spending in other areas to see what we could maybe do on Senator Juanita. So that would definitely play into when we would want to repave those roads. And we wouldn't want to do it before we knew the answer to that question.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to understand was with the DMAF grant. Now, I don't know if that funding can go towards road work like this, but you're saying there is other work that's going to need to be done. So I don't want to go ahead and move a project forward and then all of a sudden realize we're going to have to go in and rip up parts of the project because we need to do this. So that's what I'm trying to understand.
That's correct. But I wouldn't say that it's a guarantee that storm work would be done on those two streets because the magnitude of cost is quite high. And if we're not able to do improvements on private property to raise the elevation and keep overland flooding from happening, there's really no point in investing that money, in spending that money. So it's a bit too early to know if work is going to happen there, but for work to happen there, it would involve work happening on private property, which is difficult, when you have, I don't know exactly how many residents on each side, but difficult to coordinate and difficult to get people to invest that money. We can't really force people to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of information we still need. So unfortunately, it's not like tonight we're just going to say, yes, it's approved to move on because we do need a report from administration. And so I know Councillor Burns would like to put forward a motion, but I hope when we request a report back that report will also include the Senator Juanita and Manhattan to kind of look at the three together, since you're saying it makes more sense to be able to do projects simultaneously. So I will leave that to Councillor Burns if you have something.
Thank you.
Oh, did you want Cam? Okay.
Just for the folks in the audience, we use a lot of acronyms, and we apologize for that because for us it's second nature. But DMAF stands for the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund, for which we got a rather large grant from the federal government to do improvements along, drainage improvements along Front Road, which you're probably well aware of, but folks in the audience and maybe some folks in the sort of online are not aware of that. So just to quantify what DMAF really is.
Yes, I apologize. I should have made that clear.
That's okay.
You will see construction coming on Front Road very soon. That's part of that DMAF funding. So that's from Riem to Beaumier. You'll see work coming in July. Councillor Burns.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we refer to administration to come up with a costing for those three streets and bring it back at budgets, and then I'll second it. I'll speak to the motion. Thank you.
Okay. So I've moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Carrick and Councillor Burns.
Okay, as we all know, I remember in the 70s, let me tell you how much it flooded. It flooded Highway 18 right up to the old Bart Evans, for those of you that have lived here long enough to remember where Bart Evans was. That included the Sunnyside, Juanita, Senator, all those streets along there. We've been working since the 90s to try to rectify that. And when the water comes up, it backs into the canals and it backs into your homes. The solution here is not going to be cheap or easy. Senator at one time was a dump back in the 20s. So the dirt down there, if you were to dig a brand new home in a basement, you have to go down 18 or 20 feet to get to bedrock and backfill it. And the new homes are built much higher than the street, but that's because of the demands of ERCA and flooding. So I think if we bring it back at budget times, we'll know exactly what it costs. And in that report, I certainly hope that we would have some timeframes. And again, that's in December, and you're all welcome to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Carrick?
I supported the motion. I get it. The two roads don't apply to what we're actually looking for. So if we can just have, maybe break it up into a section where we need to, the DMAF, did I say that right? Because that's what Juanita, Senator, and them can just be resurfaced. So can we have them two sections out, because we're not doing Senator because of the private, we won't get the private property. It's basically what we're saying, right? So there's a difference there between surfacing and then going over and above with doing the flooding and pumping.
Thank you.
So it doesn't make sense.
Mr.
that
Osborne will
we would-
address that.
Could not separate that.
Both Senator and Juanita fall into the same category when it comes to the DMAP project. And they both have the same type of drainage system. They're both at similar elevations. And when, when the, solution was presented, it's a combined storm sewers on Juanita and Senator that go to a combined pump station. Theoretically, if we're able to raise the grade. So I think they fall into the same category. You have to treat them the same.
I absolutely understand what you're saying. The problem is, you said it yourself, going on private property. So that's gonna be the issue. So I'm just wanna make sure we have a second option. That's what I'm asking for.
Could I?
The report will include all that information so that we can make a decision based on the options that are presented to us. Okay? So we have a mover and seconder and all in favor. And that carries unanimously. Okay? Thank you very much for coming tonight. Appreciate your time, and it'll come back to us at budgets.
Can I add something here,
Sure.
please? While I respect budget processes, because I've ran global manufacturing companies, I always know when there was an emergency, and especially if it was safety related, I could always find the funds to do it. And I was using an example of most recently where we had emergency funding approved by council for a by-election, right, with unfortunate conditions and circumstances. I agree. I think we're not so concerned about the flooding when it comes to high waters at present. We're worried about safety and the conditions of our road currently. So I think I agree to separate that from, the larger scale project. I think we'd really like you to reconsider and do something with urgency for our road due to the safety concerns that we've highlighted and that are on record, right, before something else happens. So I'll just leave it at that, but I really appreciate, the dialogue, the thoughts, the feedback, but I would just ask you to please consider resurfacing our road sooner than later. Really, this is serious stuff. We've had 3 falls already, okay? And I found out too, that Kevin and Sherry's dog years ago drank out of a puddle and died 3 days later. I just found out that yesterday, so I didn't have that in my outline today, but it's a serious issue. We have serious issues, and I think it's, without getting too complex, we're asking for emergency funding, and I'll leave it at that. I really appreciate you to consider that, okay?
Thank you. No, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate it. We have approved emergency funding in the past, by-election being one, but the difference, I would say, is one, the number of dollars required for a by-election compared to a resurfacing mill and pave program is quite substantial. But I can also say we have several other areas in the town where the same thing could be applied, where people believe that there's an emergency situation due to a lack of a sidewalk or any other reason. So I agree with what you're saying, but we need to get a report from administration to make sure we fully understand what work needs to be done, what the cost is of that work that needs to be done. And like I said, the DMAF isn't about necessarily a flooding work about it. It's, are we going to go in and do improvements to the road and then have to make changes to those improvements because we have to go in and do work for the DMAF? So I think it's just getting clarification from administration as they go through that process to make sure that we're not wasting dollars at the same time. So we absolutely need to get a report from administration to be able to move forward.
Can we fast track that report?
Council voted budget, but
Yeah, I think, you know, I work with sense of urgency, and I understand you have a lot of other issues coming at you guys, but this is, I mean, we've had, you know, like I said, we've experienced, and Gloria hasn't had her knees checked out yet. She keeps icing them, but fortunately it wasn't worse. So my point is, I really appreciate if you could fast track the report sooner than later, and we could get clarity pretty quickly what's going to happen.
I will leave it to council for consideration. I don't know also from administration, creating a report and getting the information they needed. I mean, we're in June. It's not like we're thinking budgets is a long time from now, so I don't know where that falls in your schedule either.
We have a decent amount of the information, and we could put that together in a decent time frame. We won't have an answer on the DMAF, even by budget. I fear we wouldn't have an answer even by budget time. But we could turn a report around for the purpose of what it would cost to resurface it and give some of the information on DMAF in short order, if council requires it.
And if you need any help, I'm here to help. I can get quotes too.
I appreciate it,
I
but
put
it doesn't
together
work
one
that
already.
way.
I know, I already put one together. We feel it was about 50 to 60 per street, but hopefully I'm not too far off.
Thank you. Council, did you want to make any changes to your motion? This is up to you.
Yeah, I would take that as a friendly amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Because a motion has already been put on the table and voted on, this will now become a reconsideration on the motion.
Okay.
You said it again, I didn't quite hear that.
A reconsideration. Right.
Make a motion to reconsider then. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Burns. Anybody can vote. Okay. So it's moved by Councillor Burns. Do I have anyone supporting? Councillor Richo-Spagnolo supports. In order for us to reconsider, we need 2/3 of who's in attendance today. I will call the question. Councillor Carrick, do you have a question before I call the question?
More comments. I'll support the motion, just.
Okay, so all in favor? Okay, now, we can start fresh. And, hold on, Councillor Burns, we just need your mic back on.
And we can go with the motion that was put there, that administration refer the petition to the resurfacing of Senator to administration to prepare a report for council, considered at a future meeting. So I would
Okay.
make that motion instead, that will bring it forward sooner. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a mover, do I have support? Councillor Richo-Spagnolo, and Councillor Carrick, did you want to speak on this?
Yes, I do. So, Senator was within the 5-year term, or the 5-year limit as one of the streets. So I don't want to give the residents false hope coming back with a report. Just, there's money in the budget for it. It's on the list. So I will support the motion in the report, but I just don't want to give false hope out there when it comes back. So that's my concern and my comments. I would much rather like to see this at budgets, but I will support this. Thank you.
Okay, move and support, all in favor, and that carries. Thank you very much, have a good evening. Moving on to item H1, we have staff reports and correspondence for council's action. We have G. Gregg Park land transfer from our Director of Public Works, Mr. Osborne.
Sorry, during all that, my computer turned off. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. The report before you tonight is regarding a potential land transfer of Craig G. Park from IRCA to the town of LaSalle. So Craig G. Park is the park located at the corner of Ream and Front Road. It's a small parkette. The property is owned by the Conservation Authority, but it's operated and maintained by the town of LaSalle. The reason this kind of came up is through the DMAF project. This location is been identified for one of our storm pump station outlets. There is an existing storm outlet there, but this would add a much larger, significant pump station to that location. We've been in contact with the Conservation Authority over the last probably 6 months to a year regarding this item. They are in agreement in principle of handing this piece of property over to the town since we maintain it anyways. If council agrees, this would be brought to the IRCA board by IRCA administration, but we needed to go through the step of going to our council first, and we are asking for the approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of council, any questions? There being none, the recommendations that the report of the Director of Public Works dated June 24th, 2025, being PW-10-2025 regarding G. Craig Park land transfer to be received, and that council directs administration to complete a land donation from the Essex Region Conservation Authority to the town of LaSalle upon approval from the Essex Region Conservation Authority Board. Moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Rucha Spagnola, all in favor, and that carries. Item 2 is our Front Road Storm Sewer Rehabilitation Tender Award. Our Manager of Engineering, Mr. Capucci.
Thank you. Mayor, members of council, lots of DMAF talk tonight, so we'll add another one to the list. The report here is to award the contract of the Front Road Sewer Rehabilitation to J.J. LaPera for a price just under $8 million. We started the process a few years back with the Stormwater Master Plan to study the flooding issues we've had along Front Road. Along that time, we were able to apply for and receive a federal grant, which will cover roughly 40% or up to $14 million for the engineering and construction. There is a timeline associated with those costs, so we are lucky to be still within those timelines to complete the construction. In June, we put the job out for tender. We received competitive pricing and within our estimate and budget. So we're recommending that the contract get awarded to J.J. LaPera, so we are able to start within the next 2 to 3 weeks. We held a PIC on June 19th last week to talk to the residents and commuters to kind of discuss the construction, the limits, the staging, and some of the other issues that we might have during the construction process. And we feel that we are ready to start the project. And if you have questions, I'm here to answer any.
Thank you. Councillor Carrick.
I think I saw some posts from the town about the disruption it's going to cause on Front Road. So it would be one lane in each side? Is that what I'm hearing? Am I understanding that correctly?
Through you, Madam Mayor. For the majority of the project, there's different stages, but yeah, through the construction zone, which is from Riem to Beaumier, you can expect one lane of traffic in one direction and the other, so from 4 lanes down to 2. The majority of the construction is happening on the northbound lane, so the east curb lane, that's where the new storm sewer is going to be. So along the east side of the road, that's where the new storm sewers are going to be. And we need the 2 lanes to properly construct and stage and for safety of the construction crews to facilitate the work.
So there's one more. So would we put the big signs up at the start of each end of the construction well in advance to warn the motorists on the road itself?
Correct. Through you, Madam Mayor, correct. We've already started conversations with the city as well as Amherstburg to try to divert traffic on their, we'll try to divert traffic coming in from both sides. We have a meeting with the contractor this Friday to go over more of the detour routes and signage plans and start dates. So when we have that, you'll start to see message boards and other types of signage start popping up within the weeks coming, and we'll be working with communications as well to put out notifications to town residents as well as the city and town of Amherstburg residents so that they're aware of the construction and they can try to find different routes.
Thank you. I know town did a good job on Match It, so I'm assuming it'll be the same process. Thank you.
Any other questions? Work is expected to begin sometime in July, and the actual construction on the road should last how long? Because I know people were confused by the 2026 of the station, so I just wanted to clarify that part.
The construction was stopped based on the asphalt plant. So the idea is to get everything completed within this year. So from July to the end of December, we're gonna have lanes closed from 4 till 2. There'll likely be restoration works needed to happen in the spring. And so we wanted to let motorists know that there is a possibility that further disruptions may happen in the spring of 26. We're hoping that isn't the case, but the reality of this type of construction is that's what we're looking at.
Thank you. And when we talk signage, we're hoping to put signage driving into the town of LaSalle from Amherstburg before they get to Malden, so that if they need to take a detour, and so just so it's a little bit less congested on our side streets is kind of the goal.
That is the plan.
Okay.
That's exactly what we're planning on doing. Yep.
Appreciate it. Members of council? Recommendation is.
Move the recommendation.
Okay. Support by Councillor Carrick. All in favor? That carries. Our consent agenda has 2 items. Is there anything you want to pull out from those 2 items, or can we move them together? Moved by Councillor Carrick, support. Councillor Richa-Spagnolo, all in favor? And that carries. And that was just a motion to receive those. That's okay, right? Okay. J, committee matters. There's just the one item, which is the county council highlights from the June 4th, 2025 meeting. And the recommendation is just that the county council highlights for June 4th be received. Any questions on that? No? Moved by Councillor Carrick, support by Councillor Burns, all in favor? And that carries. Any questions or statements by council members this evening? Councillor Carrick?
2 things. I just want to say I was at county council with our mayor at the beginning of the June meeting, and she did a great job representing the town and advocating for the town as a whole for the upcoming, hopefully, restructuring of the roads and everything else in the county. So you did an excellent job. Just wanted to pass that on. And secondly, speaking of roads, we did get some very positive comments on Disputed today. I got quite a few, to be honest, so thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any other questions, comments, statements? None? Any notices of motion? I do have one, which I will read out now. The notice of motion is for vexatious and frivolous bylaw complaints policy. And so it's whereas the town of LaSalle is committed to fair, transparent, and efficient enforcement of municipal bylaws. And whereas repeated, unfounded, or frivolous complaints made to bylaw enforcement, fire services, or other departments can place an undue burden on municipal resources. And whereas such complaints can negatively impact residents who are in full compliance with town bylaws, contributing to a sense of harassment or unfair treatment. And whereas other municipalities across Ontario have adopted formal, vexatious, or frivolous complaint policies to manage and respond to patterns of unreasonable behavior in a consistent and equitable manner. Therefore, it be resolved that Council direct administration to develop a draft policy for Council's consideration that outlines how the town will address and manage frivolous, vexatious, or repeated unfounded complaints. And further, that the policy include, but not be limited to, provisions on complaint intake and review procedures, criteria for identifying and responding to frivolous or vexatious complaints, the balance between proactive and reactive enforcements, confidentiality and protection of complainant and respondent information, procedural fairness for all parties involved, and further that the bylaw enforcement staff collaborate with other relevant departments to ensure the policy appropriately addresses the other areas and has appropriate language. And I would also like to ensure maybe that we could provide residents with a clear language when it comes to our bylaws. And further, that a draft policy be brought forward council for review at a future meeting. Thank you. We have no closed session to report this evening. We can move into our bylaws, and we only have the one, and it's that the following bylaw be given a first, second, third reading and finally passed. 2025-059, a bylaw to authorize the purchase of lands municipally known as 120 Ellsworth Avenue in LaSalle. Moved by Councillor Carrick, support by Councillor Burns, all in favor, and that carries. Our confirmatory bylaw, the confirmatory bylaw 2025-061 be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed. Moved by Councillor Richa-Spagnolo, support by Councillor Carrick, all in favor, And that carries unanimously. Schedule of meetings are listed below. Thank you for joining us in person. We actually have an audience today, which is kind of a nice change. And thank you for joining us online as well. Have a good night.